everyone, welcome back to another Where Is. I hope everyone is having a great January so far. I apologize for being gone so long. Unfortunately, I did end up testing positive for C-19 over the holidays, but I am back and I'm better. And of course, I have another case for you guys. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So today we will be discussing the disappearance of Ebonee Spears. Ebonee Shanetta Spears was born on May 12th in 1985 to her parents Alfonso and Harriet Rivers and was just 30 years old when she went missing from Wilmington, North Carolina. She was the youngest of four siblings and was also a mother to her daughter Anaya, who was just 13 years old when her mother disappeared. Ebonee also had a boyfriend at the time whose name was Antonio McCoy. Now, Ebonee does suffer from lupus. Now, lupus is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks its own tissues, and she was diagnosed with lupus during the summer of 2015. Now, she was prescribed an antidepressant, but it's reported that she became confused and even paranoid after taking the antidepressant. Now, that's really all of the background information that we have on Ebonee, so let's go ahead and break down the timeline of her disappearance. So, according to Wilmington police, weeks before Ebonee had disappeared, she had checked into a hotel in the downtown area of Wilmington on Water Street, and she had accused the hotel staff of stealing from her. Now, there is no evidence to support that the hotel staff had in fact stolen from Ebonee, so this is sort of like the first instance of Ebonee displaying strange behavior. Now, her family and friends had also reported that Ebonee had been acting strangely in the days leading up to her disappearance on January 15th of 2016. So on January 14th, the day before her disappearance, it was a Thursday, and according to her former boss at the Carolina Gymnastics Academy, they last saw her when she had dropped off clothes for her daughter Anaya, who was also attending the academy because she had gymnastics practice that afternoon. So according to her former boss, she says that Ebonee was not the reserved, quiet, normal person that we normally knew, but nothing that I would say she's about to disappear. So to me, it sounds like Ebonee was acting different while she was at the academy, but not in a way that seemed to be alarming to her former boss. Now, her former boss also says that Ebonee was a trustworthy and reliable employee and that they really enjoyed working with her and that she was always on time. Now, that night on January 14th, Ebonee drove herself to the Wilmington Police Department located on the 600 block of Best Street, which was only a few blocks from her home. Now, according to police, Ebonee was acting paranoid and disoriented, which again, according to her mother, was a symptom of her new antidepressant medication that she was taking because of her lupus. Now, her parents had actually met her in the parking lot of the police station, and they wanted the police to commit her to a hospital so that she could get psychiatric treatment. Now, an ambulance did reportedly show up. However, the paramedics ultimately declined to transfer her to the hospital. So, according to police spokeswoman Linda Thompson, police told her family that if they were concerned about Ebonee's behavior, that they would have to go to a magistrate to request that she be involuntarily committed. So Ebony ended up never going to the hospital, and within about an hour, she was acting lucid again, so her parents felt comfortable enough to let her go home. So the next day, on January 15th, which again is the day of Ebony's disappearance, her father Alfonso picks her up so that they can go have breakfast at their home, which was on Pricey's Lane in Wilmington. Now, according to her mother, Ebony was fine that day. She says that she had meetings planned and just overall was planning on having a normal day. Now, once it started getting closer to the afternoon is when her mother says that things started to get a bit weird. So after breakfast, her father takes her back to her home, and later that evening, she was supposed to drive back up to her family's home to have dinner. Her father had actually planned to pick up sandwiches for dinner that night. Now, around 7 p.m., Ebony had called her mother and told her that she had already eaten a salad. She also says that she was fine and that she had just stepped outside to get some air. Now, this was a red flag according to her mother because she says that Ebony did not like cold weather, so she says that she didn't believe that she would be walking up and down the street. But nonetheless, she said that she was going to stay home that night and this would be the last time her mother would hear from her. Also, according to investigators, this would be the last call made from her phone, according to her cell phone records. So, according to reports, Ebony was walking down Nixon Street around 7 and 8 p.m. Now, as she is walking, her mother says a friend of hers who worked at the Community Boys and Girls Club was driving a Boys and Girls Club van back to the community center when Ebony reportedly flagged the van down as she is walking. But once her friend saw her, he noticed that something seemed off. He says that Ebony was acting very paranoid, almost as if someone was following her. So he decides to drop her off at the Boys and Girls Club and he tells her to wait there. Now, according to Detective Lee Odom, Ebony had spoken briefly to a social worker while she was at the Boys and Girls Club, and according to the social worker, Ebony was acting paranoid and then she proceeded to leave the club. Now, at this point, it is around 8 p.m., and after leaving the club, Ebony heads to the police department, which was only a few blocks from the Boys and Girls Club. So she walks into the police station and she asks to use the phone. So an officer at the front desk shows her where the phone is in the lobby area, and it's reported that Ebony had actually gotten upset and started using profanity and just left out of the station. Now, according to Lieutenant Kelvin Hargrove, the officer at the front desk went and checked the phone to see if the phone was actually working because he had no idea why Ebony had gotten so upset. Now, Lieutenant Hargrove says that after leaving the station, Ebony was seen again actually leaving the Boys and Girls Club, heading towards her house around 8:30 to 9 p.m. Now, it was about 10 p.m., and according to a neighbor, Ebony had spoken to the neighbor outside of her apartment and she had asked him for a cigarette. Now, he reportedly told Ebony that he only had one cigarette left, and he says that Ebony had mentioned walking to the store to get something, and that would be the last time anyone would see or hear from Ebony, according to investigators. Now, her boyfriend Antonio says that he drove up to her apartment around 11 p.m. that night, about an hour after she was reportedly last seen there, and he says that her car was in the driveway and her purse was inside the home, but Ebonee was nowhere to be found. Now, he also says that she basically never went anywhere without her purse and that she still had everything in it. He says that her license, her bank cards, everything was still in her purse. Now, he says that he did try calling her cell phone, but each time it would go straight to voicemail. So at this point, Antonio decided to wait to see if Ebonee would eventually come home, but after about 2 hours had gone by, Antonio decided to call her parents to inform them that she had not returned home, and that is when her parents reported her missing the following afternoon. Now, her family says that it was uncharacteristic for Ebonee to just up and leave without any warning. Now, as far as the investigation goes, there really hasn't been any leads. There's really no suspects. So, the only information we have gotten as far as her case is from her friend that worked at the Boys and Girls Club. And we know she went to the police station, and her neighbor says that she asked for a cigarette that night. And that's pretty much it. Now, there is reportedly surveillance footage that is about 5 minutes long that shows Ebonee at the police department the night of her disappearance. Now, Wilmington police have said that they do not plan on releasing the footage. However, Ebonee's parents were given permission to watch the video, and according to her father, Ebonee was asking for help over and over again. Now, in the video, they couldn't actually hear the audio, but her father says that he knows his daughter and he says that he just knows that she was asking for help. Her family still to this day continues to hold out hope that Ebonee is alive out there somewhere. Her family, as well as the community, still hold rallies in honor of Ebonee, and her mother also passes out water bottles and flyers with her picture on it. So, what could have possibly happened to Ebonee? Did her neighbor have something to do with it since they were the last person to see her? They said that she said something about going to the store, but we know that her purse was still left in her home, so could the neighbor had been lying and just made that whole story up? But to me, if her neighbor did have something to do with her disappearance, what would be the reason for them wanting to get rid of her? We can also look at her boyfriend Antonio. Could he have been possibly responsible for her disappearance as well? I mean, we know that he waited 2 hours before he called her parents. Now, me personally, I don't think I could wait 15 minutes knowing my loved one wasn't answering the phone and considering how late it was that they weren't home. Also, what if Ebonee really was paranoid and that someone could quite possibly have been following her? I mean, could there have been someone that she noticed was stalking her, or did she owe someone money and now they were threatening her? But from what we know, Ebonee was a good person, so her getting caught up in the wrong crowd isn't very likely. Another theory, and the one that I believe the least, is that she took her own life, but her mother says that she doesn't believe that even with the medication messing with her mental state, that she would take her own life. I mean, she had a family and she had a beautiful daughter, and plus, like her mother mentioned, they most likely would have found her body by now if she did take her life. Another theory is that Ebony ran away to start a new life, but again, I doubt that she would up and leave her daughter and her family, and her mother also says that she locked her door. If you were planning on up and leaving your life behind, why would you even care if your door was locked or not? For me, I feel like she was a woman who was crying out for help. I'm not sure what was going on in her life, but I mean, she went to the police station twice, and I just wish that someone would have stepped in and helped her. Again, Ebony was only 30 years old at the time of her disappearance. She is African American with black hair and brown eyes, but at the time of her disappearance, she did have blonde in her hair. At the time, her height is listed that she stood anywhere I've seen from 5'3" to 5'8" and weighed about 140 to 150 pounds. She has a tattoo of a rose on her right shoulder as well as a butterfly tattoo on the top of her right foot. She was last seen wearing a purple or burgundy sweatshirt, a white shirt, blue jeans, brown leather Timberland boots, and a pink knit cap. Again, Ebony does suffer from lupus, so that is something to also keep in mind because she may be in need of medical attention. If alive, Ebony would be 36 years old. If you have any information, you can contact the Wilmington Police Department at 910-343-3686. Now, I really want to know what you guys think about this case. I truly hope that Ebony is alive and well out there somewhere, and I hope and pray that we can bring her home together. Well, that is it for me today, you guys. Please stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.